I was an anonymous egg donor in my youth. Now my daughter has made a new best friend, and he's my biological son. I was 22, living alone, drowning in college debt with no prospects in sight. I saw an ad about egg donation. Anonymous, well-paid, safe procedure. I took the tests, passed the screening, and less than a month later, there I was, lying on a gurney, anesthetized, being part of something that seemed too distant to be real. It was just once. They paid me well. And the contract was crystal clear. Absolute confidentiality. No contact, no future, no involvement. I didn't want to be a mother, not back then. Years later, when I met Marcos, everything changed. He was stable, calm, reliable, everything I thought I needed. We married quickly, and soon after came Clara, my little girl. My miracle. My daughter with whom I have an almost suffocating bond. I would give anything for her, anything at all. Now, at 13, Clara is a teenager full of opinions, peculiar taste in music, and a slight obsession with astrology. But a few weeks ago, she came home from school with a different sparkle in her eyes. She said she'd made a new best friend. Mom, you have to meet Leo. He's amazing. It feels like we've known each other for centuries. I thought it was cute. Teenagers always say things like that, right? But then he started showing up. First, just in photos, then in video calls, then here at home. Marcos even joked, "This kid's going to end up becoming part of the family, huh?" I laughed. But when I saw Leo for the first time, my stomach dropped. He had the same eye shape as me, the slightly arched eyebrow, just like my father's, the strange laugh, kind of choked, that everyone always told me was characteristic of our family. It was like looking at a portrait of myself with a masculine filter. My body went cold. That night after he left, I couldn't sleep. I went to the box where I kept old documents, searched until I found it, the clinic contract, and there it was. Donation performed in August 2011. Clara had been born in 2012. Leo? I did a quick search on his profile. Birthday May 2012. Compatible timing. I started sweating. The next morning, I drove Clara to school and waited in the car. I wanted to see. I needed to see. When Leo arrived, I saw his mother getting out of the car, and there I froze completely. It was the same woman who had interviewed me at the clinic years ago. The woman who explained the process to me, who shook my hand at the end. She had said she was just a coordinator at the center, but now she was the mother of my biological son. I don't know how I drove back home. For the first time, I found myself facing a dilemma I never imagined living through. My daughter and my son, even if biological, were becoming inseparable. And I was trapped between the past and the present, not knowing whether to tell the truth or destroy everything they were building. I spent the following days trying to convince myself it was just paranoia. Coincidence, maybe. A projection of my old guilt. A delusion fed by physical resemblance. But it wasn't. Every time Leo came to our house, it was like looking at a version of myself I'd never known. He and Clara would spend hours together, laughing, playing video games, sharing secrets. And I would stay in the kitchen, my hand trembling on the counter, listening to that laugh that echoed like a mirror from the past. Marcos began to notice my strange behavior. "Is everything okay with you?" I shook my head, without the courage to say anything. How would I explain this without sounding crazy? I decided to act. Discreetly, I sent an email to the old fertility clinic, using a fake address, asking for information about a supposed donation I had made years ago. I knew they couldn't give me anything. Confidentiality, anonymity, all of that was still law, but I needed to try. The response was standard. "We regret that we cannot provide any data about recipients or descendants." I was left with that stuck in my throat, as if my own blood had been torn out and returned in the form of a stranger, smiling at me from my living room. Until one day, after dinner, Clara said something that made my world stop. "Mom, can I sleep over at Leo's house this weekend?" I stopped chewing. "Are you going to sleep in the same room?" She rolled her eyes. "Mom, his mother is super strict. It'll be in separate rooms, obviously. But he said he wanted to show me some videos from a channel he loves. We're going to be gaming too." My throat went dry. I couldn't think straight. They were teenagers. They weren't officially siblings, nor did they know anything. But the idea of them getting closer in a more intimate way made me nauseous. "No, Clara, you're not going." "What? Why?" "Because..." I took a deep breath. "I don't feel comfortable." She was furious. She screamed, slammed her bedroom door, called me controlling. I let her. It was better for her to hate me now than regret it later. That night, I sat in the dark on the couch, my mind spinning. I needed to know. I needed confirmation. Because if it was true, if Leo really was my biological son, then I had responsibility. I couldn't pretend I didn't see it, that I didn't understand. The next day, I made an absurd decision. I went to their school. I waited for recess, asked to speak with the coordinator as if it were about something academic. Then I took advantage of seeing Leo's mother talking with a teacher in the hallway. I approached, feigning casualness. "Excuse me for interrupting. You're Leo's mother, right?" She looked at me with surprise and a slight smile. "Yes, that's me. And you are?" "Clara's mother. They've been spending quite a bit of time together." "Oh, of course. Your daughter is wonderful. Leo talks about her all the time." Pause. "You know, you don't seem like a stranger," she said, squinting her eyes. I smiled bitterly. "I think we've met before." She frowned. as if pulling something from memory. When she seemed to understand, I saw shock in her eyes. She quickly looked away. "I need to go," she said abruptly. "It was a pleasure seeing you," and she left. It was at that moment that I knew. She knew who I was, and she recognized me. What I didn't know yet was how much this would change everything. I came home with my heart racing. All the pieces were there, scattered, and beginning to fit together. The woman who pretended not to recognize me, who turned her back in a hurry, she knew. She knew who I was, and most importantly, she knew who Leo was to me. But why hide it? I spent the rest of the day mulling it over. I went to pick up Clara at school, and when she got in the car, she was serious. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. The silence between us felt like a stretched rope about to snap. "Are you still mad?" I asked as I parked in the garage. She answered with a simple yes, and went upstairs. Later, it was already night. I received a notification on my phone. Message from an unknown number. "Can we talk? About today. Renata." Renata. Her name. It was as if the entire past was coming back with full force. I replied, "We can. Tomorrow early, at the cafe on the school corner," she confirmed. I had trouble sleeping. Every minute, my head spun with possibilities. What was she going to tell me? Did Leo know anything? Did he feel something different for Clara? Something that went beyond friendship? The idea gave me chills. The next day, I woke up early, showered without even noticing the water, and went to the cafe. Renata was already there, eyes downcast and a cup in her hands. I sat down. "Thank you for coming," she said. I nodded. "You knew, didn't you?" She took a while to answer, but then shook her head, like someone carrying a weight. "I knew the day I first saw your daughter. Leo showed me a photo, and I froze. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Then he told me your name. I didn't need anything more. And even so, you stayed silent? I didn't know what to do. You donated anonymously. It was part of the agreement. And you wanted to disconnect. I respected that." I laughed without humor. "Respected? By letting my son grow up meters from my house, friends with my daughter? You think that's respecting?" She lowered her eyes again. She stayed silent. "Does he know?" I asked. "No. I never said anything. Leo thinks he's my and my ex-husband's biological child. He doesn't know about the fertilization. I've been lying from the beginning. I said he was our natural child. I almost lost my breath. So he doesn't even know he was generated through donation? No." And now, with this friendship between them, with this strange connection they both have, I started to get scared. Scared of what? Scared of what might happen. Scared you might tell. We stared at each other in silence. It was too absurd, too tragic. She sighed. "I don't want them to suffer, neither of them, but I also can't stop it. The truth is, they're intertwined in them, in the way they look at each other, how they understand each other. You notice that, don't you?" I nodded slowly. That was it. I saw it. I felt it. What Clara described as, "it feels like we've known each other for centuries," wasn't just teenage stuff. It was a blood bond. It was the kind of connection that neither time, nor secrets, nor distance could erase. Renata pulled a small folder from her purse and placed it on the table. "Here are all the documents, medical history, photos, everything I have from the process. I kept this for years, because deep down, I knew that one day you might reappear." I looked at her, not knowing what to say. I took the folder. She stood up. "Take good care of both of them, in whatever way you know how, because now, there's no more running away." And she left. I sat there, motionless, looking at the folder in my hands as if it were a bomb about to explode. I took the folder home like someone carrying dynamite. I waited for Clara to go to her room, locked myself in mine, and started reading. Papers, exams, fertilization acceptance terms, a letter from the clinic psychologist saying Renata was fit to receive an embryo. Everything was there. And in the middle, a highlighted sheet with something that stopped my heart. Donor, code F187, family history, no genetic diseases, above average intelligence, harmonious facial features. It was me, reduced to a file. In the early hours, I opened Instagram and stared at photos of the two of them together. Clara and Leo laughing in a pool. Clara and Leo on a school trip. Clara and Leo lying on the living room floor, studying. It was impossible not to see the mirror there. They shared something invisible to the world's eyes, but screaming at me. The next day, I did the unthinkable. I waited for Marcos to leave for work, dropped Clara off at school, and went after Leo. I waited for him to leave class and discreetly approached him at the gate. "Leo, can I talk to you for a minute?" He found it strange, but nodded. "Sure." "Did something happen to Clara?" "No, it's about you, actually." He looked at me confused but attentive. "I wanted to know if you've ever talked to your mother about your origin, about how you were born." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "If she's ever told you if you were generated through some treatment, fertilization, donation." He interrupted me. "No. Never. She always said it was a normal pregnancy." I took a deep breath. That hurt more than I imagined. "Then maybe you need to talk to her." He went pale. For the first time, I saw genuine panic in his eyes. "You know something, don't you?" I couldn't deny it. "I do. But this conversation needs to come from her. Promise you'll talk to her today?" He nodded, his voice weak. "Okay." I went home with wobbly legs. I spent the rest of the day restless. In the late afternoon, Renata called me. I answered on the first ring. You talked to him, didn't you? I did. On the other end of the line, the silence was like a scream. So it's over, right? She said. Her voice choked. No. It's not over yet, but the truth started coming out of the grave where we buried it. That night, Clara came into my room with wide eyes. Mom, Leo just called me. He was crying. He said he found out he was generated through donation. I feigned surprise. Really? Yes, but the worst part, he thinks maybe you two are related. My body froze. Why? Because he said he feels strange around me. Like, it's wrong, but at the same time, like he can't stay away. I wanted to scream, to tear that pain from my chest, but I could only hug her. She cried on my shoulder, without knowing that everything she felt made sense, without knowing that what seemed improbable was real. I never felt so miserable. Seeing Clara crying in my arms, confused, scared, talking about a strange feeling that she and Leo couldn't explain, it was like taking a punch every time she opened her mouth. And the worst part was knowing she thought the problem was with them, when, in reality, the mistake had been mine. Mine and Renata's. After she calmed down, she went upstairs. She said she was going to try to sleep, but I knew she wouldn't. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the glass of water for almost an hour. I sent a message to Renata. He told Clara. 2 seconds later, she replied, "My God." And now it's out of our hands. And it really was. The next day, Leo didn't go to school. Clara didn't want to go either. She stayed curled up on the couch, not eating, with her phone in her hand all the time, waiting for a message from him. And she asked me with such a sincere voice that it hurt. Mom, do you think there's some explanation? Could we really be, I don't know, relatives? My mouth went dry. Maybe you're just kindred spirits, sweetheart. A lie. I knew exactly what they were, and now I also knew what I needed to do, even if it was the worst decision of my life. In the afternoon, I rang Renata's doorbell. She opened the door with red eyes already. She let me in without saying a word. Leo was in his room. The house had a heavy, muffled silence. We need to tell them, both of them. Together, I said. She nodded silently. We arranged for that same night, a conversation, the 4 of us. No way out. I went home and called Clara. Honey, we're going to Leo's house tonight. There's something I need to tell you, and his mother too. She frowned. About what? About you two. Clara went pale, and on the way there, she didn't say a word. Neither did I. When we arrived, Leo was sitting on the couch, looking smaller than he really was. Clara sat next to him, but without touching him. There was tension so thick in the air you could cut it with a knife. Renata took a deep breath. Leo. Clara. There's something we need to explain, and this is going to change a lot of things. Leo looked at his mother. Clara at me. Leo, you were generated through fertilization, Renata said slowly. I couldn't get pregnant naturally, and your father at the time also had problems. We opted for fertilization with donated eggs. Leo remained static, but he nodded, as if he had already accepted this part. And the donor was me, I completed, my voice failing. The world stopped. Clara's eyes widened. Leo opened his mouth as if to say something, but no sound came out. What do you mean? Clara whispered. I was young, needed money, and made an anonymous egg donation. I never imagined that one day, one of my biological children would be so close to me, and to you. Clara stood up slowly. So he's my brother? Biologically, yes. You share half your DNA, but you didn't grow up together, weren't raised as siblings. It's complex. I know. But it's the truth. Leo put his hands to his face. Clara started crying again. Renata, too. I wanted to disappear. I can't believe this, Clara was saying between sobs. This seems like something from a movie, Mom. This is sick. I know. And I'm sorry for everything. The silence that followed was the cruelest of my life. They were there, trying to understand the impossible, and I could only think that by hiding it, I tried to protect them. But maybe I ruined something that should never have started. Clara left Renata's house without saying a word. She just got up with her face red and eyes swollen and walked to the car. I followed. Silent. Leo tried to call her, but she didn't even look back. On the way home, she only said one sentence, "Leave me alone," and that was it. When we got home, she went straight to her room and locked the door. She didn't want dinner, didn't want to talk. Just silence, just anger, just pain. I stayed in the living room, lying on the couch, trying to find a position that would ease the knot in my chest. There wasn't one. Because everything I feared most had come true. Clara felt betrayed by me, and rightfully so. The next day, she didn't come down for breakfast. I knocked on the door, insisted, begged. But nothing. Who appeared was Marcos. What's going on with Clara? He asked, frowning. Since yesterday, she's been different. And you too. Are you going to explain? It was obvious he didn't know anything. And worse, I still had one more lie to face. Marcos, remember when I was younger, before we met, that I told you I went through financial difficulties? Yes. I made an egg donation. It was anonymous. I never thought it would amount to anything. But Leo, Clara's friend, he's my biological son. Marcos's face transformed before me. First disbelief, then shock, then anger. What? I only found out recently, and I panicked. I tried to prevent the two of them from getting close, but I couldn't. And yesterday, we told them everything. He backed away from me as if I were dangerous. You hid this from me. You let the two of them create bonds. You saw this happen, saw their friendship turn into something else and said nothing. I stayed silent, because it was true. This is sick. Completely sick. I know, but it wasn't like I knew from the beginning. I was discovering little by little, and instead of cutting the problem at the root, you let it germinate. He left the room. Another person who hated me. That same day, I received an unexpected message from Leo. Can we talk? Just the two of us. I arranged to meet him at the same cafe where Renata had given me the folder. When I arrived, he was already there, with red eyes, disheveled hair, and an expression that broke my heart. I'm angry, but not at you, he began. I'm angry at the lie, at life, at the way everything was hidden from us. I'm lost. Me too, Leo, more than ever. He took a deep breath. Clara doesn't want to talk to me. She said she feels contaminated, that she's disgusted by having felt what she felt. I swallowed hard. She's going to need time. It's a lot to process. I need it too, because I thought we were soulmates, you know? But now that's become almost a sin. The pain in his eyes was indescribable. You don't need to call me Mom, I said carefully. I didn't come to take that place in your life, but if someday you want to understand who I am or who you are, I'm here. He nodded without responding. We said goodbye with a timid hug, and when I got home, I found Clara's bedroom door ajar. I entered slowly. She was lying down, listening to music. May I? She took off her headphones and nodded. He sent me a message, she said. I know. I met with him, just to talk. She took a deep breath. Mom, I can't look at him and not feel everything I felt before. It's like part of me still wants to, but now that's disgusting, right? No, honey, it's not disgusting. It's human. You didn't know. Neither of you knew. Feelings aren't sins. They just are. She started crying again, and I went to her. I lay down beside her, and for the first time in days, she didn't pull away. After that night, things changed. Clara continued talking little, but she let me stay nearby. Sometimes she'd let out a sentence, some random comment, and then go quiet again. But I understood. She was mending inside, and emotional scars, you don't rush those. Marcos, however, he completely withdrew. He spent the day away, came home late, avoided any conversation. He slept in the guest room. I knew that for him, it wasn't just about the donation or Leo. It was about trust, about what I had hidden from him, and he wasn't wrong. One night, I gathered courage and went to the room where he was sleeping. Can I come in? He just looked, then nodded. I should have told you before, much earlier. He crossed his arms. You think? I swallowed the bitter response. I thought it wasn't important, that it was something buried, but when I realized who Leo was, I panicked. I felt like I had set a fire in the middle of our family, and I tried to smother the flames with silence. He was quiet for a while, then he spoke. You always had this instinct to protect everyone, but your way, without sharing the responsibility with anyone, not even with me. I know, and I'm trying to change, but I don't know if there's still time to fix it. He looked me in the eyes, and what I saw there cut me more than any words. I don't know either. I went back to my room with that, I don't know, echoing inside my head. Sometimes, I don't know is just a polite no. In the following days, Leo didn't return to school. They said he had taken a leave, that he was going to study remotely for a while. Clara pretended she didn't care, but I could tell. When she picked up her phone, she always looked at his name. She never clicked, but she looked. Until one day, she came into the kitchen and said, Mom, he sent me a letter. A letter? Handwritten. He left it at the front desk. I didn't have the courage to read it. Do you want me to read it? No, I mean, maybe. But out loud. I took the envelope. I opened it carefully. The handwriting was beautiful, firm, but shaky in some parts. Clara, I don't know what we are anymore, and maybe we shouldn't try to understand right now, but I needed to tell you that I love you, not as a brother, not as a friend. I love you the way I came to know, intense, confusing, beautiful, and pure. And even knowing the truth now, I can't erase what we lived. I don't want to erase it. I know this might be wrong for everyone else, but for me, it was the only moment when everything made sense. If you ever want to talk, I'll be waiting. With love, Leo. When I finished, Clara was crying, but not like before. It was a silent, resigned cry. She just took the letter, held it to her chest, and said, I don't want to forget him, Mom, and you don't have to. Forgetting isn't the only way to move forward. She hugged me, tight. As if, finally, she was allowing herself to feel everything without guilt. Later that night, I received an unexpected call. It was Renata. We need to talk. I discovered something about Leo's origin, and you need to know. My breathing stopped. What? The clinic lied to us. I went mute on the phone for a few seconds. What do you mean? They lied? Renata sighed on the other end of the line, her voice trembling. I went to the clinic. I pressed them. I said I knew about Leo's origin, that I had found you again. They freaked out. Said it was impossible, that the data was confidential, that I was violating contracts. But an employee, an older one, called me aside. She said that years ago, there was a cataloging error, that some donations were poorly recorded, and that, at the time, no one took responsibility. I sat on the couch, feeling my legs weaken. Renata, what are you saying? That maybe Leo isn't just your son. Maybe he's the son of another couple too. They were using the same genetic material for more than one embryo, without control, without criteria, and with multiple recipients. My world collapsed again, as if everything I had accepted up until then was just the tip of a much darker iceberg. They duplicated the eggs? Not just yours. It seems it was something bigger, a scheme to better take advantage of valuable donors, as they called them. And Leo might have half-siblings scattered out there. Clara's biological siblings, too. A deep nausea overcame me. It was like I had entered a bottomless pit. And you're only finding this out now? Yes. And they're trying to make me sign a new confidentiality agreement. They said that if I disclose anything, I could be sued, but I needed to tell you. You did right. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. My heart was racing. I tried to breathe deeply, but the air wouldn't go in properly. That changed everything. If the clinic had used my eggs more than once, if there were other children out there, other teenagers with half my DNA circulating through the same schools, cities, social networks, then the situation was even more serious than I had imagined. I ran to Clara's room. I knocked on the door firmly. Honey, we need to talk. Now. She opened, worried about my tone. What happened? Do you remember I said I only made one donation? Just once? Yes. We found out the clinic lied, that they may have used my eggs more than once, and that there may be other teenagers out there with the same biological bond, your siblings, Leo's siblings. She went pale. This is serious? Very serious. Does this mean that anyone I get involved with could be someone from my family? Not anyone, but there's a chance. A small chance, but real. She sat on the bed in shock. Mom, this is a nightmare. This is horror movie stuff. I know. And that's why we need to understand everything. Seek the records, demand access, because now it's not just about you and Leo. It's about protecting you, your feelings, your future decisions. She started crying. I hate this. I hate this past you let into my life. I didn't ask for this. I knelt in front of her, and I would give everything to protect you. But now, the only thing I can do is fight for the whole truth to come out, without more half-truths, without more silence. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me, with a squeeze that said more than any sentence. The next morning, I went to the clinic. I didn't knock on the door. I went straight in, demanding to speak with the director. I showed a dossier I had prepared based on the documents Renata had given me. Either you cooperate or this goes to the media, and it goes to justice. The man stared at me with frightening calm. You don't know what you're dealing with, but I did know. I was dealing with the darkest past of my life, and now, with my children's future. I left the clinic trembling, with rage, with fear, but above all with determination. They thought I was going to keep quiet, that I was going to accept another lie behind pretty words and legal jargon. But what they didn't know, what no one there knew, is that when you touch a mother's children, you light a fire that doesn't go out easily. On the way back, I called Renata. They know we're discovering everything, and they're scared. Do you still have those documents? All of them. Copies, backups, even in the cloud. Great. Let's use this. Let's find a lawyer. She hesitated for a few seconds. Are you sure? This could get too big. It could become a scandal. It could hurt Leo. Clara, I'm not doing this just for them. I'm doing it for me too. I need to fix what I let slip away. I need to face it head on. And deep down, I also knew I needed redemption. Somehow, this was the only possible path. In the following days, I contacted a lawyer specializing in bioethics and civil rights. I explained everything. I showed the documents. She was amazed. You have a very strong case. This isn't just medical error. It's a crime. Improper commercialization of genetic material, breach of contract, fraud. If this comes to light, this clinic could fall. Then let's make it fall. Clara, during this time, tried to return to routine, but I could see how shaken she was. She didn't want to go out, didn't want to see friends. She locked herself in her room, listened to music, wrote in the notebook she always hid from me. She was living through the grief of a story that should never have begun. One night, she came downstairs with the notebook in her hands. Mom, can I show you something? I nodded. She sat next to me on the couch, opened the notebook, and showed me a poem written by her. We were bonds before we knew about the threads. We walked in circles that seemed like destiny, and when the truth came, it tore the ground from under our feet. But what's born from the heart doesn't erase with blood, and love, even forbidden, is still love. Reading that broke me apart. You still love him, don't you? I asked. She didn't answer. She just closed the notebook carefully. I'm going to keep this to myself, maybe for the rest of my life. My heart ached. Because she didn't deserve to carry that kind of weight. But at the same time, I admired the strength with which she decided to deal with it, without revolt, without screaming, just with silence and honest words. 2 days later, the lawyer called us. Get ready. The clinic already knows you have evidence, and they're going to try to silence you. There might be pressure, threats, even settlement offers. And it came. The next morning, I received an email titled Extrajudicial Settlement Proposal, Urgent. They offered an absurd amount of money for us to drop the case. Absolute secrecy. Nothing could be disclosed or spoken about publicly. It was the kind of amount that could pay for Clara's college, guarantee stability for years. But I didn't accept, because it wasn't about money. It never was. And because I knew that if I accepted, I would be selling again something that should never have been sold, my daughter's dignity, and my son's too. I called Renata. They offered money. Did you receive anything? I did. And I refused. Let's go all the way. Together. What the clinic didn't know was that I was preparing more than just a lawsuit. I was gathering stories from other women, other donors, other mothers, and one of them, the next on the list, had an even more explosive secret. After refusing the settlement, I decided I couldn't act alone anymore. If the clinic did this to me and Renata, it was practically certain they had done it to other women too. I joined online groups, old forums about egg donation, silent communities of women who had gone through similar experiences. Some ignored me. Others, curious, responded. I told my story, carefully, and waited. 2 weeks later, I received a private message. Hi, my name is Camilla. I made an egg donation at the same clinic as you, between 2010 and 2011. Recently, I discovered that my eggs were used without my consent in multiple treatments. And the worst part? One of the children generated with my genetic material studies at the same school as my biological son. I want to talk to you. Urgent. My blood ran cold. I scheduled the meeting for that weekend. Camilla was young, but with tired eyes. A single mother of 2 children, one biological, the other adopted. Or at least, she thought he was adopted. They told me my eggs had been used only once, and that the embryo was discarded, that the procedure failed. But years later, I met a woman at the hospital who recognized me from the donation time. She showed me a photo of her daughter, and the girl was identical to me as a child. Identical. I listened in silence, my stomach churning. And you know what's worse? She said, her voice choked. That girl studies with my son. Leo? No, his name is Arthur. My body froze. Arthur? Yes. His mother is Ana Paula. Do you know her? Right then, everything spun. Ana Paula was a neighbor from our area. Clara had been to parties at her house. And Arthur? Of course. Clara always commented about a boy from school who had the same family way. He talks like you, Mom. Camilla. Are you sure? I am. Ana Paula doesn't know anything. She thinks it was traditional fertilization with bank eggs, but I requested a DNA test. I did it secretly with her son. He's mine. 99.9%. I was in shock. It was the 3rd case. Camilla, me, and Renata. 3 different women, 3 children, all from the same clinic, all from the same time period. We were deceived, Camilla, betrayed by a system that reduced us to genetic code. She nodded, crying. And our children are growing up side by side, running the risk of repeating this story again. On the way home, Clara asked me why I was so pale. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine, honey. Just tired. A lie. I was in panic, because if Arthur really was Camilla's son, and he studied with Clara and Leo, then the school was full of biological children from the same origin, full of teenagers who might be siblings, half-siblings, genetic cousins, all growing up, creating bonds, falling in love, without knowing the truth. It was a minefield. And I was right in the middle of it. That night, I sat with Clara in the living room. Honey, I need you to listen to me with an open heart, okay? She nodded. Suspicious. We're not the only affected family. There are other mothers, other similar stories. I discovered another case today. A boy you know, Arthur. She frowned. Arthur from Class C? Yes. He's probably your half-brother too. She put her hands to her mouth. This can't be true, but it is. And that's why we need to continue. Not just with the lawsuit, but with the truth. Clara hugged me like never before. I'm scared, Mom. Scared of finding out that everything around me is a lie. Not everything, honey, but there's a lot that needs to be rewritten. And it was in that hug that I understood. This story was still far from over. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed sitting in the kitchen, staring at the wall as if it would answer me something, wondering how far this web of lies went. Because now it wasn't just about me, Renata, and Camilla anymore. It was about an entire generation of young people growing up with invisible genetic bonds, crossing dangerous paths without even suspecting. The next morning, I went to the school. I asked for a meeting with the administration, not as a mother, but as a citizen concerned about what was happening there, even though no one officially knew anything yet. What exactly do you want? Asked the principal, politely confused. I want you to alert parents about a possible scandal involving the fertility clinic most used by the school's families. There are teenagers here who might be biological siblings and don't know it. This is serious. He laughed. I'm sorry, but this sounds more like a conspiracy theory. So I put the documents on the table. This here isn't theory, it's proof. And if you don't do anything, I'm going to the press. It'll be national headlines. You can believe it. He leafed through the papers and his expression changed. This is serious. Very. He promised to call a meeting with parents in the following days. I knew I would face resistance, but it didn't matter. The truth needed to circulate, even if it had to be spit out. Meanwhile, Renata called me. Leo is bad. Very bad. He said he can't sleep anymore, that all this has given him panic attacks. He needs help, therapy, support, love. He wants to see you. Are you sure? He said he can't live without understanding who you are, that he needs your gaze to find himself. We arranged to meet at the park. When he saw me, he ran. He hugged me tight, like a son returning home after a long exile. I'm scared, he said, his eyes full of tears. Me too. Scared of being just another lab experiment, of never knowing where I came from, where I'm going. Scared of looking at people around me and not knowing if any of them is part of me. But you know one thing, I said. You're part of me. No one can take that away. And even if you were born from someone else's wrong choice, you're right. Your love. You always were. He cried. I did too. And in that moment, I felt like we had turned a page. That night, I told Clara about the meeting. She listened in silence. Mom, what if I have more half-siblings? What if I fall in love again with someone and only find out later? That's why we're going to keep investigating. We're going to force the clinic to open the files. We're going to do this for you, for Leo, for Arthur, for everyone who doesn't even know the truth yet. She nodded firmly. I want to help. It's going to be heavy, honey. It already is. But I don't want to be just a victim. I want to be part of the solution. In that moment, I saw the woman my daughter was becoming, a wounded but brave teenager, confused but determined, someone who carries chaos and transforms it into courage. 2 days later, I received a message from an unknown number. Hi. My name is Juliana. I think I'm Leo's sister, and Clara's too. It was official. The dots were beginning to connect, and this story was going to explode more than I had imagined. When I read Juliana's message, my whole body froze. It was like each letter weighed a ton, like the phone was catching fire in my hand. I think I'm Leo's sister, and Clara's too. I felt the ground move again. It was the third time that month that fate had tripped me up like this. I took a deep breath, replied with the basics. Juliana, explain to me how you found me. The response didn't take long. I saw your name mentioned in an old forum of mothers who went through fertilization. My mother always suspected the clinic. Recently, she found papers in my father's old office. He was a doctor and was part of the clinic's management for a short period. Among those papers, there was a donor file with code F187, the same one that appears in my record. We investigated. We found your name. I saw your story in private groups. I saw your daughter, and I saw Leo. My heart ached in a way I couldn't even describe. It was real. Another one. I immediately called Renata. Hi, we have another daughter. What? Juliana. She's 15. She figured it out on her own. Her mother found old papers. She's shaken, but wants to talk. This is getting out of control, and it's just beginning. I arranged to meet Juliana at a discreet mall, far from where we live. When she appeared, my heart raced. She was tall, dark hair, and had exactly the same look as Clara when she's angry, a look that pierces through silence. You're... she began. Yes. I'm the woman with code F187. She smiled awkwardly. I thought you'd be older. Thank you. I think. She sat down, looked around, nervous. My mother doesn't know I came. She's scared. She said this will destroy everything. And maybe it will. But the truth, Juliana, truth is like fire. It burns. But it also purifies. She nodded. I saw photos of Leo and Clara. I feel like I already know them both. Do you want to meet them? She hesitated. Yes. But calmly. I want to hear the story first. I want to know how this happened, why it happened, who let this happen. So I told her. I told her everything about my youth, the donation, the contract, about how Clara was born later, about Leo appearing out of nowhere in our house as my daughter's friend, about the fears, the silences, the guilt, about the clinic, the documents, the scandal that was about to explode. Juliana listened quietly. Only one tear fell, silent. I feel deceived, she said. Not just by the clinic, but by everything. For being raised without being told the truth. For letting me grow up thinking my blood was just mine. But now you know. And now you can choose what to do with it. She looked me in the eyes. I want to fight with you. That same night, Clara learned about Juliana. How old is she? 15. That means she was born after me. Yes. The clinic continued using my eggs even after the period allowed by contract. They manipulated everything. For money. For convenience. Clara was stronger now. More firm. We need to gather everyone. A meeting. A reunion. All the siblings. Are you prepared for that? She took a deep breath. Nobody's prepared for any of this. But I don't want to be caught by surprise again. I want to see with my own eyes who these people are who carry a piece of me. The following week, with the help of the lawyer and Renata, we organized what I called the siblings meeting. A Saturday. In a rented space, total secrecy. Each one with a story. Each one with a face that somehow resembled the others. And in that small room, there were 9 teenagers. All children of code F187. All mine. And what happened there, none of us was prepared to face. When I entered that room, I felt my heart stop for a few seconds. 9. 9 faces that, somehow, were familiar. It was like walking through a house full of twisted mirrors. Each one reflected a part of me, a look, a way of laughing, a way of frowning when they were nervous, and they were all nervous. Clara held my hand tightly. Leo was there too, next to Renata. Juliana sat further away, but attentive. The others came with mothers, fathers, in some cases grandparents, most in shock, others still trying to accept what that meeting really meant. The silence there was heavy, until one of the boys, tall, thin, with the same nose as my father, stood up. "Can someone explain to me why we're here?" It was fair. I took a deep breath and went to the center of the room. "My name is Helena. You don't know me as a mother, and you don't need to call me that. But all of you share one thing, part of my DNA. When I was young, I donated eggs at a clinic that, at the time, promised me secrecy, ethics, and that everything would be used responsibly." I paused. They lied. They used the eggs multiple times. They performed dozens of fertilizations. They didn't control the data. And worse, they brought all of you into the world without any concern for what could happen if you crossed paths, if you got involved, if you built relationships that shouldn't happen between siblings. The silence became a collective lament. A father stood up. "Are you saying that these young people here are all siblings? Half-siblings biologically?" "Yes." A girl, sitting in front, started crying. Another mother got up to hug her. Leo lowered his head. Clara squeezed me tighter. "This is absurd," shouted an elderly woman. "How did they let this happen? How did no one control this?" "Because they profited from it," Renata replied, standing up. "Because clinics like that take advantage of the fragility of those who want to donate and those who want to generate a life. And now, these children pay the price." The boy who had spoken before was now calmer. He looked around. "We grew up thinking we were unique, that our family was our story. And now, it seems like we're part of a network we never chose to be in." Juliana, for the first time, spoke. "But maybe now we can choose what to do with this. We can pretend nothing happened, go on with our lives, or we can get to know each other, protect each other, create some kind of network. Even if it's just to make sure we never repeat the mistake of falling in love with someone who is our sibling." Her words hit hard. Clara looked down. Leo, too. "And how will we know if there are more?" asked one of the mothers. "We don't know," I replied. "We're still investigating. The clinic hid a lot, but we're filing a lawsuit, demanding opening of data, and we want to pressure the media, justice, the health ministry. This can't stay hidden anymore." The meeting ended with more silence than conversation, but in the look of each teenager there was a common point: confusion. And, strangely, a new kind of belonging. On the way home, Clara was mute, but before sleeping, she came to me. "Mom, I don't know if I'll be able to forgive you completely, but today I understood that you weren't to blame for everything, that you were also deceived. I just wanted to protect you. I know. And now I want to protect who I am, even without really knowing who I am yet." She hugged me. Long, painful, true. And for the first time, I felt like she was letting me back in. The next morning, the news leaked. An exclusive story, with headline in bold letters: "Fertility clinic accused of creating generation of unknown siblings." The bomb had exploded, and the real war was just beginning. The story spread like wildfire. Newspapers, portals, radio, TV, podcasts. Everyone wanted to talk about the generation of invisible siblings. It was like watching my life become a national case overnight. My name wasn't in the texts, but those who knew me knew. And even those who didn't started looking. The clinic released a formal statement denying everything. It said that procedures rigorously followed Anvisa standards, that isolated cases do not represent structural failures, and that they do not recognize the authenticity of the documents presented so far. Typical. But it didn't help, because soon other stories started emerging. More donors, more recipient mothers, more teenagers suspicious of their own origin. It was as if the story had opened a door that couldn't be closed anymore. And even in the chaos, I felt relieved. Because the truth was finally where it should have always been, in plain sight. But inside the house, the chaos continued. Clara didn't want to go to school. She said she was now the girl with the lost siblings, that everyone stared sideways, whispered. Leo also sent a message saying he was going to change schools, that he couldn't stand the looks, the comments anymore. And Marcos still slept in the guest room. "You became a symbol of a cause," he said, in a rare conversation in the kitchen. "And I don't know if I can live with someone who is half woman, half headline." That hurt more than anything. I never wanted to be a symbol of anything. I just wanted to correct a mistake. But it wasn't just one mistake. There were many, including with me. I stayed quiet. He got up and left. I had to accept that maybe he would never come back. Meanwhile, the teenagers started organizing on their own. Juliana created a WhatsApp group called F187 Children. Leo, Clara, Arthur, and 5 others joined. "We're talking," Clara told me one day, "about how to protect ourselves, how to recognize signs. We created a map with the schools each one attends, the cities where they live. We're going to make a spreadsheet with similar surnames, birth dates. Anything that prevents more tragedy. Are you creating a system? We're creating a family, Mom. Our way." That destroyed and rebuilt me at the same time. They were doing what the adults didn't do, taking care of each other. A few days later, the lawyer called me. The clinic is going to be investigated, formally. We managed to get attention from federal agencies. The public ministry is setting up a task force. The case is going to grow, and you might be called to testify in Brasilia. I'll go. Are you sure? It's the least I can do. That night, I received a message from Leo. I'm writing a letter to each of our siblings, a way to connect. Even if each one reacts differently, I thought you should know. And I still see you as a mother, even if you didn't raise me. I cried. Because even though my story began in a cold clinic, in a faceless room, now it was alive. In 9 teenagers, in letters, in a WhatsApp group, in a girl who came back to calling me mom with her eyes. In the midst of so much pain, a new family was being born. Fragmented, improvised, but real. And the hardest part was still to come, the testimony. The time to look in the eyes of those who built this nightmare and say, we remember. We know, and we're not going to be silent anymore. I prepared like someone going to war, lawyer by my side, dossier in hand, heart in my mouth. On the day of the testimony, I was taken to a room at the public ministry. There were 3 prosecutors, 2 investigators, and a woman from the Federal Council of Medicine, all with folders, recorders, attentive eyes. Your full name, please, asked one of the prosecutors. Helena Ferreira Moura. Do you confirm that you donated genetic material to Vida Nova Clinic in 2011? I confirm. And that, according to your reports and documents attached to the case, your eggs were used in multiple procedures without your consent? Yes, and I can prove it. I began to relate everything, from the ad I saw in college to the day of donation. I described the feeling of signing papers without knowing what came next. I told about Leo's appearance, the shock, the suspicion that became confirmation. I talked about Clara. I talked about the friendship that almost became love. I talked about the guilt. They loved each other without knowing they were siblings. My voice failed. This isn't fiction. This isn't exaggeration. This happened. And it was the fault of negligence, of profit above ethics, of neglect. I told about the meetings with other mothers, the messages, the spontaneous testimonies that emerged after the story. There's an entire generation of teenagers growing up without knowing who they are, and this is the fault of a system that preferred to pretend these lives wouldn't cross paths, as if DNA had no power, as if blood didn't call. The woman from the council looked at me, visibly shaken. Do you want some financial reparation? I want justice. I want no one else to live what my daughter lived, for no one else to look at someone with love and then discover that this love was incest forced by others' omission. The silence was heavy after that. One of the prosecutors took a deep breath. Your testimony will be attached to the main inquiry. Other mothers will be called. The case is becoming emblematic, and you have become the voice of all of them. I lowered my eyes. I didn't ask to be that, but now that I am, I'll go all the way. I left the building with my head held high, but trembling inside. At the door were Renata, Camila, Juliana, and, to my surprise, Marcos. What are you doing here? I asked, not knowing whether to smile or cry. I thought a lot. I saw everything happen from afar. I saw the woman you're trying to be. And I realized that maybe the problem isn't just what you did, but what I wasn't able to understand. And now I want to try, one step at a time. He held my hand. That night, in the F187 children group, Clara sent a message. Have you guys realized that if it weren't for this mess, we might never have met each other? I don't know if this is tragedy or miracle. And Juliana replied, maybe it's both. In that instant, I understood something simple and brutal. I couldn't change the past, but I could transform the future. And even among ruins, you can build something new. Something real, something ours.